Okay, so what we're gonna do for the this should be really easy. For the top, your fabric, do you have a piece of fabric like woven fabric that's 45 inches wide or cotton blend? Okay, so fold it, in half, just the way it comes from the fabric store. You have your, selvages on this side and your fold on this side. And for me, I just cut myself like a 18-inch length. You probably don't even need that much, but say like it's essentially half a yard of fabric. So if you have a length of fabric, you cut it 18 inches, and then that's what we're going to use. And then on the side here where it's folded, just cut through that fold so that you have two pieces of fabric. I'm going to use two 18-inch pieces of fabric that are 18 by 22, essentially is what it is. Okay, so if this is, say, the top of my top here, and I have a side, we're gonna have a side seam over here, and then we're gonna have a side seam over here. Okay, so what you want to do is measure down, probably for you guys, about say 5 inches from the top edge, and then we're gonna stitch straight down. I think for me, I know I'm gonna have to make it probably, maybe if I'll do like 6. So for me, I'm going to go say 6 inches from this top edge. I'm not going to sew up here because this is our armhole. This will be our armhole, and we're going to sew from here down. So for you guys, I'm thinking like measure like 5 inches, because we'll fold in. You think about if it's a pillowcase top, we're going to fold in the top here. So if I say 5 inches is here, you fold in the top. And then this is your armhole here. So 5 should be plenty for you guys. So measure down 5 inches from the top edge, and then that's where you start sewing on both sides. Yeah, you're going to sew the two pieces together. You just want to make sure, because this is going to create our armhole. So if I start here, my 5 inches is here. So I'm just going to sew from this point straight down. You don't want to sew above that 5 inches edge. And so straight down, your two pieces together, right sides together, and sew it on both sides. So you measure down. If this is your 5-inch mark, you sew from there straight down. Look on your machine here on the plate, it says 5/8. You can't really see that, but it says 5/8. And so that's, if you're asking about how far in, it looks about like this. So the edge of my fabric is on that 5/8 of an inch mark. If it's a little bigger, that's fine. You just need to make sure, like we don't want to do like a narrow seam like we sometimes do. You need it a little bigger, because at the top we need to be able to fold it in. So at least do that 5/8. If it ends up being a little bigger, that's fine. So you want to take your top, and I have it folded so that, my seams are now in the middle. So what you want to do is turn in your seams on each side. Going to turn it in, like if you're near an ironing board, you can press this out. Going to turn in my seam, and I don't want these raw edges showing, so I'm going to turn it in again, turn it under, so that I create a nice clean seam. Like where you sewed it, just open it up and lay it so that your seams are here in the middle. We're going to work with one side at a time. So at the top here where we left it open, right? You see that? Okay, so we want to see how close I can get. So we're going to stitch here, across here, and up there. It's going to look like this once we're done sewing it. It should look like this. But what I'm saying is, rather than just folding it and sewing it, turn in your raw edges here. So say if we put pins in it, I should go iron it, but I'm not. So I'm just going to fold in my edges here. And rather than just sewing like that, because then what will happen is I'm going to have all these threads and frays once I wash it. I'm going to turn in this edge again. Basically, it's a narrow hem is what it's called that we're doing. I'm just going to turn that in a little bit, and that's where I'm going to sew, because I don't want these raw edges here. Armhole. So once you get this pinned, what you're going to do is your seam allowances, seam should be open here. So you're just going to sew close to that edge that you folded, so straight down. And then where you get to where your stitching starts, you want to sew across and then go back up the other side. So once you get it pinned, you're going to sew, your stitching should look like this. So that's straight, and then you go across, then you go back up the other side. That's the stitch you're going to do, straight down, across, and back up. And do each side of your top the same way. Just folding in my edges here. So now I'm where my seam starts. So I keep my needle lowered, and I'm just gonna turn my fabric so that I can go across that seam. Okay, then you just turn and go back up towards the top of your top of your blouse. Okay, so once you have that sewn, it should look like this on the outside. Okay. So do that on both sides of your blouse. Okay, so now what we want to do, we're going to do basically the same thing, but on the top edge here. So say this is your front and this is your back. So it should look like this at this point. You have your two side seams here that you sewed. And then this is essentially your armhole that, you have like sewed that off. So it's like nice. So you want to take your top edge, and let's give you, like, I'm just going to estimate it based upon how wide your ribbon is. So the tie that I'm going to put in mine, I know it's like 1.5 inches. So I'll probably fold down about, say, 2 inches. And same thing, turn in your raw edges. So at the top edge of each one, fold down, say about 2 inches. And you can put yourself a pin up here. And then you just want to turn in this edge here, the cut edge, a little bit, so that you have a folded edge. And then that's what we're going to sew. So you should have like your side seam on each side, right? And then you have your armhole edge that we've sewed. You got that? Okay. And so now you have two, this is the top. Say this is the front and this is the back. You got that? Okay. So you want to fold down. I'm looking at mine from the right side, but we're going to do this, from the wrong side. So if I just open this so I can see the wrong side of this fabric, fold down, and I estimate everything. So I'm going to fold down, say 2 inches, so that I know with those 2 inches, my fabric, my ribbon will fit through here. So if you guys do 2 inches, that's plenty. Fold down 2 inches. Essentially, we're doing the same thing here as we did on the armhole. It's just that this is a bigger amount. So I'm going to fold down 2 inches. And if I were so inclined, I would go to my ironing board and press this down, but I'm not. So say that's, my 2-inch mark all the way over. And then just turn in your raw edges, just like we did the armhole edge. So if this is my 2 inches here, then I want to take this edge and fold it under a little bit so that I have no raw edges. And then we would be sewing here, close to the folded edge. Mine, if you look at it, this is the right side of my fabric. So basically I just opened it up. So I'm folding it in to the wrong side. So on the outside, when I turn it over, once I sew it, it's gonna look like this. This is my armhole, and this will be, say, the top edge of my blouse. It would be like, think about it if we were doing a skirt and you were creating a casing for a waistband for elastic. That's all we're doing. We're folding down 2 inches to create a casing. Just make sure you're folding this into the wrong side of your top. You got it like that? Okay. Okay, so once you have it folded, say this is my armhole here. So I have this top edge folded. I'm just going to sew straight along that top edge. Make sure you don't sew across. You got to leave that open because that's where we're going to put our ribbon or string or whatever you're doing. Leave that open. You're just going to sew straight across the top here. And my fabric is stretchy. It's a gauze, so it stretches out. So you'll see me kind of bunch it up a little bit as I'm sewing. Hold my top edge down. So I'm just going to sew along the top here. I'm going to do my other side the same way. Except I'm not going to measure this time. Is I'm going to use fabric instead of ribbon. So say if you decide to make another one and you want to use fabric, I have 2 pieces of fabric that are say a yard long, so 36 inches by 4 inches wide, and I sewed them together in the middle to create one long strip. So that's what I'm sewing. Okay. I'll trim my strap and then I'm just going to turn it to the right side. Once you have the top edge sewn across the, both pieces, so I'm saying this is my front and this is my back, you want to, and let's just say you need, say, 2 yards of ribbon. So a good 72 inches of ribbon would be fine. And you need a safety pin to feed your ribbon through, just like we would do elastic. So what we're doing, we're going to do the one that has just the tie on one side. So this is my strap. I want to put my safety pin in the end of it here, and you're going to start on whatever side, just pick a side and feed it through, go all the way around. And you're going to come back. If I'm starting here, I'm going to end up over here. Okay, so you keep going past that armhole. Basically, you're going to come out one armhole and go into the other one. End over here. So pull it out and then go back into your other side. Okay, so now I'm back over where my other one is. I'll go through this opening and I'm just going to pull it to kind of make it even. Where you just adjust the your straps here. Okay, so it should look like this. And like I said, you just adjust the straps. If it's too low or too high, you just adjust it so that it fits you correctly. And then at this point, it's the same thing. You just do a narrow hem, just like we did on the armhole here. Or if you wanted to get, a little festive, you could always put some lace at the bottom of it, or those pom-poms. So something like this you could do at the bottom of it. Say if you decided to make another one, just add some trim or something to the bottom of it.